Thank you, Chairperson. I think opening government generally talk about the beauty and necessity of art, and not specifically about the intrinsic methodology of this postmodern art technicality. We agree that diversity or inclusion is necessary as an ideology. We are more than happy to express those messages under the traditional, other types of more established art form. But what we oppose is this specific methodology of ready-made by Duchamp, just toilet and say something other than universality exists. This kind of intrinsic methodology is what we oppose in this debate. I'd like to talk about special social and cultural status as an art rather than random amateur expression in YouTube. This distinction is particularly important. That is why we should not label these expressions as an art. We call it entertainment, we call it something else, but not art. That is why we oppose the motion. So based on that, I'm going to talk about two things in this speech. First of all, the necessity of a special social and cultural status as an art rather than amateur expression. Secondly, why art, the existence of postmodern art rather undermines the ability of art to generate a political dialogue, to set a clear standard which is necessary to protect minority or pass things like equity violation policy in the community. This kind of clear strategy is necessary rather than pushing the boundary and deconstruct everything. No, thank you. So let's move on to the past issues. The rebuttal to the other side will have to be incorporated. The first question is why should we call something as an art rather than random amateur individual? The opening government explained that the rationale, the social context behind this kind of trend is because there are many popular consumerist movements in YouTube. Many amateurs are able to express them. We are happy to accept that, but what we oppose is let's not call them art. Because if you randomly start calling so many things as an art, you degrade the existence of art and undermines and dilutes the ability of the special ability of art to generate discussion. No, thank you. So when the entertainment or certain expressions are socially and culturally granted as the privilege of art, what happens is the government is more likely to spare resources or give subsidy to these kinds of expressions. Moreover, the museums or all the other social infrastructures are politically supported to highlight expression in special areas. There are many chances in which people are able to learn the message behind that kind of art, ladies and gentlemen. Moreover, ladies and gentlemen, when under the gaze of art as a cultural protection, these kind of expressions are not exposed to market competition. This kind of special social acknowledgement, special social acceptance or the status of art is necessary in order to make a differentiation. What happens under their model is when everything, literally everything is called art, what happens is that you undermine the political support or cultural support to make that kind of differentiation, because the market is going to shrink when you lose that kind of political support, where all the random shit is acknowledged as an art by government or acknowledged by government. What happens is you necessarily undermine democratic support for any government protection, any cultural and social protection for specific kinds of arts. What happens? Deputy Prime Minister explained that our burden of proof is rise of postmodern arts undermines the rise of other arts. That necessarily happens because when you generally, in general, you lose democratic and cultural support for art and special kinds of expression, you necessarily generally undermines the market of art in the first place. What happens is it's harder for the general public to access any kinds of expressions when those the market is saturated with the amateur random shit, right? Therefore, the order benefits that the Deputy Prime Minister explained, the understanding minority, the catharsis of diverse experiences, all those experiences are diluted under the market which is saturated with the random shit. That is why we need to make a clear categorization and call specific kinds of expressions as an art rather than labeling all that shit. No, thank you. Moving on to the final issues about the rise of postmodern arts undermine the ability of unique ability of art to generate discourse. Closing, go ahead.
99% of art that you now call classical was some random shit that nobody understands.
No, I would like to oppose the idea. I understand that for some individual, it might be difficult for them to understand even traditional art. But as long as the art is granted a special social status, what happens? There are many occasions in which people are able to access the message like museum, like education curriculum is including a certain art as it's part of education, but not a random shit. When certain expressions are called at the university, for example, or educational institution, within high school, are able to include those things into their curriculum and textbooks. That is why under the mandatory education, so many children, or almost all children, are able to access the interpretation of such kind of like expression. That is not likely to happen on their side with us when the art is recognized as a random social shit, and many educational institutions start to oppose interpreting those things in a certain way, don't think it. And the output, the healthy discussion about the interpretation happens because of this kind of democratic and social support. Moving on to the final argumentation. In a context in which society is diversified, it's very easy to say, it's very easy to like justify hate speech or oppressive expression as a form of art. When you say art, you are necessarily avoid or circumvent many social criticism, and that is harmful. Sometimes we need to clear position about what is good and what is bad. We shouldn't take like ambiguous strategy in order to protect minorities. For example, when France engaged with the conflict against Algeria in 1950s, the Camus released a book called like Le Entourage. What happens? Camus tried to present the idea that there's no universal value. There might be good and bad things about France's conflict against Algeria. The reason why Jean-Paul Sartre criticized that was because France needed to take a clear stance about whether the conflict was good or bad. Otherwise, it's harder for public to understand or to end the warfare. In exactly the same way, in a context in which like pushing the boundary or deconstructing existing value is already predominant in society, it's very hard for public to engage with a clear moralistic discussion about what constitutes immoral, what constitutes morality. In a context in which we're trying to pass so many policies to protect minority, like equity violation policies, we can't say like we don't know whether a minority feel offended or not, therefore we should have like free speech, free discussion. No, there are oftentimes victims who are suffering offended by the kinds of expression that they are proposing to say. In order to counter those kind of like a random narrative and always leveraged by right-wing politicians or radical groups, we need to have clear and explicit standard of evaluation in order for democratic society to reach certain consensus about how we should protect minorities or what kind of like value judgment to enforce to pass legal restrictions or regulation. And this kind of discussion is undermined and diluted when random shit are labeled as an art. That is why we oppose the motion. Thank you.
I thank you, previous speaker, for your speech. To further extend the debate from the government side, I'd like to